Hello, Mr. Montalvo here, and today we're taking a look at Unit 5, Lesson 2, Day 3, Life on the Home Front, or Life in the United States during World War II. Our first objective is to examine the role of New Yorkers in World War II, focusing on local institutions such as the Navy Yard. Our second objective is to examine the internment of Japanese Americans in light of perceived national security concerns versus constitutional rights, including the decision in Korematsu versus the United States of 1944. Two key terms to better understand the content from today. The first being civil liberty, which is an individual's rights that are protected by law from unjust governmental interference. The government does not have the right to take these civil liberties or these freedoms away. Discrimination is the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different people, especially on the grounds of race. In 1938, the Yard employed about 10,000 men, of whom 1/3 were Works Progress Administration workers. The Works Progress Administration was one of the many programs instituted by Roosevelt in his New Deal to help the United States out of the Great Depression. The Brooklyn Navy Yard played a pivotal or very important role in World War II, building boats, aircraft carriers, and repairing over 5,000 ships. At its peak during World War II, the Yard employed 70,000 people, 24 hours a day. During World War II, the pedestrian walkways over the Williamsburg and the Manhattan bridges spanning the East River offered a good overhead view of the Navy Yard to prevent espionage because of the many classified events that were taking place there. The War Production Board helped factories shift from making consumer goods to war materials. The government imposed rationing or limitations on the amount of certain goods that people could buy. Americans throughout the country planted victory gardens to produce vegetables to feed the troops and also to feed themselves. And on several occasions since World War II, the U.S. government has reduced taxes primarily to increase consumer spending and to stimulate the economy. One result of World War II was that the number of women in the workforce increased. The role of women changed as they made major contributions to the war effort. One of the most effective ways was the taking of factory jobs. Employment opportunities for women and minorities increased. Many women joined the military to support troops. However, women were not allowed to fight on the front lines. On February 19, 1942, shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor by Japanese forces, Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 with the intention of preventing espionage on American shores. What did this executive order do? It sent those of Japanese descent to internment camps, prison camps. Now, the federal government was accused of violating the constitutional rights of these Japanese Americans by relocating them to these camps. And a valid conclusion based on the experience of Japanese Americans during World War II is that during wartime, constitutional liberties may be limited. A man by the name of Korematsu brings a suit that makes its way up to the Supreme Court. And in Korematsu versus the United States, the question was called, did the president and Congress go beyond their war powers by implementing exclusion and restricting the rights of Americans of Japanese descent? The court sided with the government and held that the need to protect against espionage outweighed Korematsu's rights. Unfortunately, it would not be till 1988 that the United States would officially apologize for its actions. Congress voted to pay $20,000 to each of the surviving Americans of Japanese descent who were interned during World War II, because many Americans believed the internment was unjust and unnecessary. Now, in order to better understand the internment of Japanese Americans and how that mapped out geographically, there is an assignment attached to this entitled Japanese Internment Camps to focus on your skills of geographic reasoning and understanding geographic context. In order to conclude for today, try to explain the effects of Korematsu versus the United States on American society. What was the decision? And then what does this decision by the US Supreme Court say about the United States, its beliefs, its values? And that's all for today. Thank you.